Welcome back. Josh Hanson here, public adjuster of and the host of the Growth Strategist podcast, where I sit down with roofing and restoration operators to discuss what's going on in their market. Today, I'm joined by Billy Johnson, the founder of Ajax Roofing out of Atlanta Metro. Ajax has built a serious operation across North Georgia, deep insurance restoration experience, post-lien work, and 5-star reputation built on results. Billy, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me, Josh. I'm looking forward to it.
How's the Atlanta market treating you heading into the spring storm season?
It's solid. I know aside from Texas, we've got one of the most competitive markets, and there's really no regulation in our market. So anyone can kind of wake up the next morning and decide they're a roofing contractor. So that's one of the tough parts working in the Atlanta market is you're competing with people that one don't necessarily know what they're doing and two don't necessarily know the regulations around what they should be doing. But aside from that, I feel like any market that you're in, there's a brute force way of finding your way to win. And then there's a strategic way of finding your way to win. And I think when we got started, it was the brute force method, just hitting as many doors as possible, getting your name out there. And I think now we're in a phase where we're starting to try to make it a little bit more strategic of a way to win.
Very nice. You definitely see a lot of those folks that, they're either out of college or they make a career change. They work for a roofing company and they make a couple $100,000 a year. They do it for a few years and they're like, oh, wait a minute. I'm going to start my own roofing company because they think they know it all. Then they go ahead and, they set up shop, but then
Hmm.
they have no managerial experience whatsoever.
Exactly.
I mean, it takes years of experience to run a team. I mean,
Sure.
3 people is a skill set that takes years to master.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny, a lot of the new companies we see around here, to give credit to some of the big players in our market, a lot of the new companies are, like you said, just former sales reps of some of these bigger companies that are going and starting their own thing. And what I find is they'll have little bits of success because in our market, there's enough success out there for everyone. But you always see these companies kind of cap out around that 2 to 3 million a year mark. I mean, like you said, it just comes down to the fact they don't have the managerial experience. Running a roofing business, especially if you're heavy on insurance, is completely different than just going and selling roofs. Cash flow is going to be the biggest problem that most people run into. I see a lot of the roofing businesses that fail in our market are still
Cash flow
selling
kills.
jobs. Exactly. They're just not collecting on the payments in the time that they thought they would. And when they collect it and the bank account gets big, they go buy that new Raptor or that Ram TRX. And the next thing you know, all their material invoices are due, their crew's got to get paid. And then they're like, well, this isn't for me as much as I thought.
That Raptor down payment could have been a down payment for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny, I make a joke about it, but 3 of our guys have Raptors as well. So no shots fired.
Oh, Raptors are badass rides, man.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, it's an interesting market. And like you said, I think with there being no barrier to entry, you get a ton of the guys that they get a little bit of success, sell a couple roofs, maybe they're 21, 22 years old, and they're like, hey, I'm going to do this thing on my own and go and start their own business in business for 2 to 3 years. They don't understand the insurance requirements in order to carry your GL, your workers' comp. They don't understand what it's like to manage people. They don't understand what it's like to manage cash flow. And a lot of times, these ambitious young sales reps are probably better off just finding a company where they can be entrepreneurs within the business. And that's really what we try to offer here at Ajax.
You know what? That's definitely very unique, man. And I would love to see more companies operate that way. How long has Ajax been operating?
So our background is really interesting, in my opinion. So we've been in business for 3.5 years now. My partner in this was the manager of one of the largest roofing companies in the state. That roofing company just sold for a very, very large price tag. Well, I guess I say just sold now. It's been 3 years. In the process of them selling, he was a manager over there and he kind of just saw a little bit of the writing on the wall of what happens when private equity comes into the business. Private equity serves its role. I totally understand. And I think it's a great exit strategy for a lot of roofing businesses, but they run a lot of the business from spreadsheets. And so when they're looking at the spreadsheets, they're trying to just figure out how they can increase the margin so they can make their money back. And when that happened, it was funny. It was right around the Christmas time. He had just got $1,000 Christmas bonus. And then 2 days later, it was 3 days before Christmas, he got told he was being let go at the roofing company he was at. So then him and I kind of got together. My background was not in construction, was not in roofing. My background was more in finance, sales, and marketing. His background was he had just hired 20 roofing crews and was managing them for one of the biggest companies in the entire state. And we kind of talked through things. funny enough, we actually started off on the material supply side of things. We started
Oh,
a
no kidding.
material supply company. Yeah, absolutely. So we are importing stuff from China and then going direct to roofers and selling to roofers. And then we got to the stage where I kind of just asked him, I was like, hey, I don't know much about this game as you do. What's stopping us from going and actually selling these roofs rather than selling materials to these roofers? And he was like, well, I don't really want to get in the industry. I've been in it for the past 6 years. Like, I just don't want to be a roofing contractor. And I was like, I
Right.
get it, man, but this material supply stuff is thin margins. You got huge expenses. It's not necessarily glamorous either. Oh,
Mono-
and you're doing all this for 2% net margins when you're on the material supply side.
right.
Like, so yeah, we kind of switched over and we're like, all right, let's give this roofing thing a try. 3.5 years ago now, we already had all the access to the crews, obviously, and we were able to take the top safety rated crews from one of the most successful companies in the entire state and just keep them busy as well. Then it started off just me and my partner. I was making cold calls, he was door knocking, just trying to find leads that way. Then we got blessed in finding a young, hungry gym employee who was like, hey, man, you're in roofing. I want to see what this thing looks like. He started knocking doors with us. And from there, we've expanded to now we've got about 12 full-time employees. This year, we'll probably do around 7.5 million in sales. Last year, we did 4.8. And really, it felt like it was underperforming at 4.8. But yeah, that's kind of the origin of how we got started.
Very interesting story. A very unique story, man. I really appreciate you sharing me that. And congrats, by the way, with your success.
Thank you.
I'd like to see you hit 8 mil this year. How about that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. 7.5. I like to, my background's a finance guy. I like to say goals that if we don't hit them, there would be some frustration. We'd be upset. My partner's doing a lot on the commercial side of things right now. So I think you land a couple of those big commercial jobs and hopefully we blow our numbers out of the water. But
Man, I'm telling you, those commercial deals can be, you get, a half a dozen of those in the pipeline for one calendar year, and the payout is a tremendous
mhm.
um, difference with respect to residential. I mean, listen, you know as well as me, it can be a bitch to close. They're harder to
Yeah.
they're harder to,
Oh yeah.
you got to go through six different operators to or six different people to find the actual building owner, but
Mhm.
ultimately, man, it's well worth the effort in my opinion.
Yeah, we're getting about 40 bids out per month right now. So my partner's going through the fun of making the bids, calling the GCs. And we're targeting new construction really to start. And we've been so blessed with some of the people that have came into our business. We've got some guys with 40 years of commercial roofing experience on the operations side that have came in and been willing to consult and help with us. So we have all the reasons to be successful there. It's kind of now just on us to make sure that our foot's on the gas and we're finding a way to make it work.
Very nice, man. I'm actually focusing more on my public adjusting business this year on commercial more than residential. And I'm from Chicago. I actually started in roofing sales, learned the business and got my PA license. And we had a couple real solid hailstorms back in the day in Chicago. I think this is back 2016, 2017. Made time to learn as much as I possibly could about hail damage to
Mhm.
mod beds, CPOs,
Mm,
all flat roofing systems. And I'd show up to these adjustment appointments, diagnostic. I cut out the piece of a cap sheet on a mod bed. You can see the impact from a
yeah.
hail bruise. It
Yep.
leaves this cylindrical little mark on
Mhm.
a modified bitumen roofing system. And
Mhm.
what happens is it fractures the membrane underneath the actual cap
Right.
sheet. So they're looking for a fracture underneath. So I'd show up and these adjusters
Mhm.
are like, they're not expecting me to actually open up the roof,
Yeah.
then do a core test to actually see how many layers are on the roof. So
Right.
that's already out of the way for our estimated department. So
Right.
anyway, long story short, I'm implementing that mindset back again this
It's
year.
awesome.
So when the next really good hailstorm hits and well, hurricane, which is most likely going to happen here in Florida, I'll be ready.
Yeah. And is Florida your main market that you're working in right now?
It is. I'm actually licensed in Texas, Colorado, and Illinois. So Florida, it's great, but just like Georgia, it's also one of the most competitive markets on the
Yeah,
planet. It's
absolutely.
oversaturated. First, DC's restoration companies, and there's way too many public adjusters here, man.
Really?
It's crazy,
Yeah.
bro.
And I've heard on the insurance side of things, it can get a lot tougher. Obviously, in Florida, your deductibles are going to be a little bit higher. It's harder for homeowners to even carry insurance. Yeah, I've heard that makes it a whole another layer of difficulty there.
Correct. It does. It definitely does not help.
Yeah,
And these, and I'm sure you've seen this too. You meet an FA, a field adjuster, an IA, an independent adjuster out at a loss. You never know where these guys are coming from, man. And
exactly,
I always like to, nobody wants you breathing over their shoulder, right? Just let them do their thing. If
exactly.
they're not going to reciprocate, won't engage, then just leave it alone. What I'm getting at is, yes, it is difficult here, but like anywhere else, man, if the damage is there, it presents itself, man.
Exactly. And that's you bring up a good point. It's a problem that we'll get pretty frequently here in Georgia is we'll get a catastrophe adjuster and he'll come here and he'll be like, "Oh, I just got done working this 3-inch hailstorm in Texas, man. This is nothing." And I'm like, "Well, I understand where you're coming from. However, this isn't Texas. This might be 1-inch hail, but it's still hail." And it's funny, I had an interesting conversation with a ladder assist last week, and he was saying like part of what he even thinks could be a little bit flawed is when a ladder assist company goes through their training, he was like, we always take National Association of Forensic Engineers training courses. He said, but the damage that we're seeing in these courses that get us our education is all damage from the 3-inch storms, and like the
Right.
huge hailstorms that then when you kind of apply that to Georgia, I mean, we'll get 2-inch. We got 2-inch actually a couple weeks ago in really small
Nice.
pockets, but you're not going to get the huge, baseball size hail that you get in Texas. And the ladder assist even said, he said, I do think that's one part that's a little bit flawed in our system of kind of documenting damages. We more so sometimes we look at these and we think they're blistering because compared to what we've been trained on, it doesn't look like hail as much because that hail is just a little bit bigger than what they've been trained on. So I thought it was really interesting insight, but I couldn't agree with you more. I think there's a lot of industries or there's a lot of like relationships within our industry that I think people look at completely wrong. Like,
Right.
I feel like so many contractors show up to those adjuster meetings with, "Oh, this is me against you." And I'm more so sided with what you said, where if the damage is there, the damage is there. We
Yeah.
can talk like humans and we can kind of find where it is and where it isn't. And we can ask the question, hey, man, you think this is blistering or you think this is a hail hit? Whereas so many contractors, you better mark this up. I got you on video. It's like, put your pride aside. Like, at the end of the day, people like working with people that they like. Make yourself likable, and then you'll get the solution you're looking for.
Honestly, I mean, it's really not a complicated concept at all. But
Right.
however, so many folks don't do it. But listen, I mean, nobody's perfect. People start out, they're
Right.
not trained right. It is what it is. But that's just it comes with the territory in our business, man.
Absolutely.
Let's jump into we talked about Ajax background, where you guys want to go. North Georgia, I mean, that's a big
Yeah.
footprint. Was that deliberate expansion or did you grow it organically?
Yeah, it's funny, like, our markets that we served, have definitely changed with the demand, I would say, like, when Helene came through, we were almost our second home was Augusta. Like, we were in an Airbnb 6 days a week, we had guys down there and, the opportunity was there, so we were doing a ton of work in Augusta. The footprint we cover now is kind of, like, organic, but through the people that we have. Like, one of our top guys, lives further north Georgia. He used to live in Ringgold, Georgia, which is almost right on that border of Tennessee. So
Okay.
we covered a lot of that market because it's close to his home. He was doing an incredible job. He was selling some roofs around there. He had a good. His name was recognized a little bit more around there. I live kind of in that Flowery Branch area, so it's just 45 minutes north of Atlanta. My partner, who we started the business together, lived just west of Atlanta in that Smyrna area. So it's like we ended up covering a pretty wide footprint organically just because of who we had that could cover that footprint. So really, we'll do anything. Most of 99% of the work we do is within a 2.5 hour drive in any direction, essentially, of Atlanta, mainly to the north side of it. But it kind of just happened based on who we had that could serve those areas. Like the opportunities came, the people were right, and we built a business around the people, I would say.
That's a great way to do it. I mean, for example, the public adjusting firm, Monarch Claims Consultants that I work with, they're out of Miami. I'm in Tampa, but that's a perfect example of what you're saying. I mean, have, folks that work in your operations scattered around that are,
Yeah.
experts in that market.
Yeah.
What a great way to expand your market, right?
Yeah, I'm really big on, I think in this industry, it's like you find A players and you build around A players. And kind of to touch on what I said at the start, like I tell all of our guys, you are entrepreneurs within our business. You have your own KPIs to run your business within our business.
Right.
And I know the way we do things is a little bit different. We're a younger company when some of these top performers that we have took a risk on us, and we've shown the reward for that. I like to think that our guys, we've never had a guy leave Ajax. Every single person who's been hired has stayed, aside from a cold caller that was remote that we never even really had a relationship with. But the reason people stay here is because we hold our guys accountable to whatever they want their standard to be. And we've rewarded the hard work. Our top person who came and joined us, he was 22 years old. He was working at the front desk of Crunch Fitness, and he came and joined us and absolutely would take the shirt off his back for Ajax and do whatever it takes to have us be successful. And we gave him equity in the business. We've had another guy who came in and just like showed that this is his lifestyle. He's earned equity in the business. So we're a small company right now, and we always kind of want to keep that small company feel, in the sense that a lot of our competitors worry about, oh, you're going to lose your reps. Fortunately, we don't really have that problem. Our guys stay here because they see that it's a family and you're entrepreneurs within Ajax, and we pay them so as well.
That's huge, man. We need, honestly, Billy, we need more operators like you out there, brother.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So let's talk about uh client success story. If you have any that you can think of
Yeah.
offhand, that where the situation was great and how Ajax delivered.
Yeah. And thankfully we've had a ton of reviews. So it seems like most of our clients have been pretty pleased with us. And in construction, that's the thing too. I set the expectation with the clients like, hey, you might see that all our reviews are 5 stars. Let me be clear. That doesn't mean every single project has been a 5 star project. That just means we've had a 5 star solution to whatever problem has came in that project. So I feel like that's kind of the main reason people have enjoyed working with us so much. But a perfect example of what we've done to have specific client success stories, I would say, is just the getting denials overturned. A lot of times we have homeowners that come to us with a denial. We had one overturned yesterday that the prior contractor, to even kind of go into what we were saying, was fighting with the desk adjuster, going back and forth with them. And the first thing we do is a little bit different. I talked to the homeowner. I said, "Hey man, did you ever get the photo report that the desk adjuster even viewed in order to make their decision?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Hey, I'd recommend just reach out to your desk adjuster, see if you can get that photo report." Well, we get the photo report, and there's no evidence of hail in the photo report. The prior contractor had been screaming their head off at the desk adjuster, and this desk adjuster's probably sitting there like, I'm confused. I don't understand why I'm getting the heat here, because the photo report they were submitted doesn't have anything that shows that the roof should be approved.
So the
So
initial analysis was not even documented right. I mean, of course it's not going to go anywhere.
exactly. And this specific homeowner even told us, he was like, "Hey, man, like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. These people have been fighting this for 6 months. Like, this contractor's been going back and forth with the desk adjuster." He's like, "I really think this is a dead end. The contractor doesn't really want to pursue it much anymore. It seems like they've been slower to get back to me." And I was like, "That's fine. Like, at the end of the day, but you guys filed this claim already. The claim's out there. If we could potentially get this overturned, it would at least be worth me taking a quick magnifying glass to it and see if there's an opportunity." Gets that photo report. We look over it, and I just sat that same side of the table with him, and I said, "Hey, look at this. If I'm that desk adjuster, I'm not approving this either." Said, "Let's do this. Let me go walk the perimeter of the house. Let me go get some photos. Let's put this together and send this to the desk adjuster and say, hey, I actually agree with your decision. Thank you for sharing this report to me, because now I see why you made the decision you made. However, here's a little bit more evidence. And at the end of the day, I'm not asking you to approve the roof just on what we're sending in. All I'm asking is if you think it's worth us getting a second opinion on this." Then now to an adjuster for a reinspection. Next thing you know, 3 days later, the roof's approved. So that's an example of a success story that we have. And whether it's attempt to repairs, which we took the Building Expert Institute course on getting certified on repair attempts, whether it's that or whether it's just kind of sitting down and like bringing a human element to overturning denials, I think that's where most of our clients um, have favorable success stories with us. And then I also could bring up one, and this is a crazy kind of elaborate success story that we had in the Augusta market. Like we talked about at the start of this, Josh, in Georgia, there's not requirements to be a contractor. Anyone can wake up and my wife could decide that she's a roofing contractor tomorrow. And we saw a lot of that when that storm came through in
Of course.
Augusta. Exactly. So many storm chasers that maybe they're from states around, maybe they just decided to wake up, they saw the opportunity. There was one company, it was hilarious. The first time we went down to Augusta, they have like 7 yard signs all in neighbors' yards. I looked them up. They have one review, and it was from like yesterday. And I'm like, okay, well, this guy's got a good social media presence and he's got a good digital presence because people are calling his phone up, but he's not a roofer. And so we saw that, and we had one homeowner in particular. And the thing also, not to go on a tangent, in that market is so many of the people there are ex-service because there's an army base down there. So many of these people there served our country, are incredible people, and they were just getting taken advantage of by contractors. This one person had a claim, it was a $70,000 claim. First check comes in, he gives $30,000 contractor, completely runs. Contractor
Yeah.
runs on him. My sequence of events is even a little bit wrong there. Contractor runs on him after going in the house, ripping out all the drywall so that he can supplement to get all the mitigation work included as well. Gets another $25,000 check for the mitigation work. So all he's done to this guy's house now is tear apart this guy's house and not actually repair anything. And then
Unbelievable. Took
supplement.
his money, did the demo, got rehab,
Yeah.
and was nowhere to be found.
Yeah. And so
Unbelievable.
this homeowner comes to us and is like, I don't know what to do here. And I'll be honest with you, it was a little bit of a new situation for us in the sense that it's like the insurance can't be at fault here. They handed out their money. The homeowner gave the money to this contractor, and this contractor, you could just not get in touch with them. Took about $45,000 from this homeowner. And we stepped in, and I say it's a success story of ours, but it's honestly a testament to what USAA were willing to do to help. We explained the situation to USAA. I had not seen this before, and I don't know if I'll ever see it again. They reissued payment for this
Wow.
claim.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
reissued payment. We explained like, hey, look, if you guys can get in contract with this, in contact with this contractor, like we'd love to hold them accountable to do the work, but all the money's with them. And I don't know if it was because it was a catastrophe event. Obviously, the hurricane came through. They had so many losses in that area. I don't know what it is, but I will say huge credit to that USAA adjuster. And the homeowner could not believe that whether you say it's us or whether you say it's USAA that did it, that they were able to get this payment reissued. Then they could pay us to actually do the work. And I mean, it was redoing all the drywall in their house. It was obviously a new roof. The guy had solar panels. I mean, it was about as messy of a claim as it could have been. And the fact that he put $45,000 into another contractor's pocket who's then going to do no work. And this guy's retired Army veteran. And I don't know where he was going to come up with that $45,000 to keep his house in check if we didn't step in and if USA didn't step up. So I think that's a really big success story that we've had.
Very impressive. I mean, just a nightmare to try to make that happen. So,
Oh yeah.
thank God it wasn't State Farm or Allstate.
I know. I know. Homeowner's so fortunate that, he got taken care of there, and, yeah, we would try to find a way to make it work, but, there wasn't many ways that was looking to be able to make it work if we weren't able to
Yeah.
get some of those funds reissued.
Congrats on that, man.
Thank you.
Um, let's talk about, let's see, this is an insurance restoration claim environment. Restoration work, Helene. You guys definitely got hit pretty hard from Helene. What would you say what's your retail store mix today, March 20?
Uh, it's a great question, and the answer is probably not what we want it to be. We're super, super heavy in insurance, very heavy in
Love
insurance,
it.
so we're probably 90 to 90, probably about 90% insurance, 10% retail. And I think again, it kind of just goes back to like when you're a young business, like that's the way you've got to break into the market for the most part. I wish I could say that our phones just ring off the hook like some of these like huge companies in our state do with retail opportunities, but more often than not, I feel like you develop your name in a state like Georgia off having a large storm mix. And then you do a good job. You obviously try to get some referrals. You build your brand a little bit, and then people start reaching out to you with retail opportunities a little bit more. But yeah, probably about 90% insurance, 10% retail. And then even a step further, we're growing in commercial. We've got one general contractor that we do a lot of work for in commercial. And so probably our mix is volume of jobs, not necessarily dollar amount, but volume of jobs is probably 95% residential, 5% commercial as well. So really heavy in storm and residential.
Sounds great. I mean, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that mix at all, especially in Georgia, Texas, Florida, this part of the country.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
where you see storms, we're more than likely to get another hurricane. These insurance companies, for me, it's getting worse and worse every year. These carriers you see these ACB roof endorsements, man,
Mm-hmm.
cosmetic exclusions, these excessive deductibles, 5, 10%. I'm sure you guys see the same thing in Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. The deductibles haven't got as crazy yet, I would say. But Jeff, the thing that drives me the craziest, and that's the most about it, is the fact that the homeowners most of the time aren't even aware of what's being done to their policy. Like
Oh
at
my
the end of the
god,
day,
that drives me
yeah,
absolutely nuts.
yeah, like, so many times we'll have a homeowner who's wanting to go file a claim, they know the roof has damage, and then next thing you know, like, we look through it and they're like, "Oh, I had no idea my policy was a $10,000 deductible. I had no idea my policy was ACV. I had no idea I had a RPS, policy on my roof." So, that's the frustrating part to me. At the end of the day, like, if these homeowners know what their coverage on their home is, and they willingly make that decision to go with that coverage, make the bed, you lie in it. But so frequently, we see these homeowners have no idea. And one thing, I don't know, Josh, if you guys see it much in Florida, but it's a new trick of the trade that I've been really picking up on by Allstate is 70% of the roof gets approved. All the funds get paid up front because it's a repair.
Mhm.
And then in my opinion, I think it's genius from Allstate. If we're looking at just from a finance decision, just from a business decision, not necessarily from a taking care of homeowners decision, but I feel like what they're doing is they're paying out for 75% of the roof, giving all the money up front, hoping the homeowner now has the opportunity to go get quotes. And Allstate can pay out for 75% of the claim. This homeowner gets enough money that someone can run a retail job and get the roof done. But it's interesting in the past
Hmm.
3 months how frequently we're seeing it on Allstate claims is claims that usually would be 100% approval are now three-fourths of the roof is bought. All the ACV money comes up front. And then you're left with a homeowner like, "Hey, I've got $17,000. What's your quote?" And I'm like, "That's genius by Allstate," but we're seeing it so frequently.
Clever the recoverable depreciation. They're
Mhm,
they're they're not withholding it back as much. They're giving a little
mhm.
bit more. That's okay.
Because they're calling it repairs
Right.
because it's 75% of the roof, so on the repairs, they'll send all the money up front, and it puts us in a very awkward situation because when you've got a homeowner saying, "Hey, I've got $12,000. Can you do my roof for $12,000?" It's hard to explain to that homeowner, "Hey, well, really you're owed 15. This roof should be paid out 15." But at the end of the day, the homeowner's like, "Yeah, I get that, but can you do it for 12?" So it puts the contractor in a very strange spot. And that's what we've been
Okay.
seeing a ton with Allstate in our market.
Interesting. I will definitely be looking out for that. It's been pretty slow in Florida. You mentioned something interesting, those agencies with respect to policyholders, especially here in Florida. It is one of the most difficult states in the country to get homeowners insurance is very expensive
Right,
here. So more often than not, these homeowners are is going to do the due diligence and shop around and find the best
right.
agency and best price and this and that and the other thing. But what I'm seeing is exactly what frustrates you with respect to these agencies. They don't educate the
Yeah,
policyholder. They just give them that best premium, and then the next thing you know, like you said, you show up at the adjustment, they're like, "Oh shit, I didn't know I had
exactly.
this deductible, ACV, roof endorsement, whatever it is."
Y
And interesting, I've found you can see the type of agencies that take that approach with respect to different markets I've worked, Texas,
Mhm.
Florida, that are they're not as inviting. When I walk in, bald head, tattoos, they're like, "Who is this guy?" And I pitch in my services. Hey, listen, I'm helping out, policyholders in the area, public
Yeah,
adjuster, here's my card. Most that don't take it and are just kind of cold, those
yeah.
most likely are the agencies that are not educated the policyholder.
Right, right. And I think in the economy that we live in from, like, a consumer standpoint, I feel like premiums have become a race to the bottom. And so these homeowners almost get excited when it's like, "Oh, I've got a cheap premium. I wanna sign up for this ASAP." And like you said, what unfortunately ends up happening is, well, the agency that offered you that cheap premium didn't explain, "Your premium's cheap because your coverage is also cheap."
100%. And remember, these firms, they make their money on providing the policy for the homeowner, for the policyholder,
Right.
right? So the more they sell, the more money they make. So I guess if they would rather not take the time to educate the policyholder just to make the sale, I mean, it is what it is, right? You
Yeah.
see it all the time in every industry.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly what it is. Like, in the insurance side of things, they look at like, well, if I go into all the details here, I'm probably not getting the sale.
Correct.
And so I fear it leaves it on the homeowner who's already working their 9 to 5, got a family to feed, for them to go do the homework on their own policy, which at the end of the day, whether they do that or not, more often than not, I see the answer that they don't.
Correct. I mean, that's the reality. Great stuff, my friend. So we've touched on quite a few points. Anything else you want to mention? I mean, what separates Ajax from other operators chasing the same jobs?
Yeah, it's a great question. I always, whenever a homeowner asks me that, I always say a couple things. I think one, I mean, first of all, if we're talking price, we always like to put our best foot forward, and we always like to lead with value, and we always like to give what feels like the homeowner's getting value, better value than they can elsewhere, and explaining why. But more often than not, I explain this: when you're working in the construction industry and you're choosing which contractor to work with, it's not necessarily which contractor can do it and how cheap can they do it. And I just make homeowners kind of understand that, because you can find someone who will always do it for cheaper, but you don't want the cheapest. You want the best quality. The reason you're going to go with someone like us, and I always invite the homeowners to test me on it, is because when you call me, I answer. And when you text me, I answer. When you're working in construction, that's actually the most important part for me. Again, to reference why we have the 5-star reviews we have, that doesn't mean we've done all of those projects that left reviews. It doesn't mean they were all perfect. They did have hiccups at times. It's construction. And I tell the homeowners this: there's going to probably be issues. At the end of the day, the reason you work with me is because I'm going nowhere. And if I was going somewhere, I'd have at least one bad review. But if you
Even
look at
if you
if,
can't answer the question or you can't solve the problem, be available for
exactly,
your client, man.
exactly,
Communication's huge,
we
huge.
will always be available, and we will always be honest. And I also say, if someone's making the decision of why they should go with me before filing a claim, maybe the answer's simple: no one's going to work harder.
Love the confidence, man. And you got to bring that too with every client.
Absolutely.
I mean, you don't have
Absolutely.
to, but it's going to be in your best interest to make the sale, right?
Yeah, and we've proven it too. I really pride ourselves in, like, the way we built the business is doing the hard thing first. It's hard to just go ahead and go and knock doors. Now we're getting to that phase, like I mentioned, where it's like I want to start doing the more efficient thing. But fortunately, we've built a company based on a group of guys that are willing to just do the hard thing. The hard thing is to go knock doors. The hard thing is to go do the follow up. Where most of our competitors in this market I see are leaning is, oh, door knocking doesn't work anymore. Oh, cold calling doesn't work anymore. No, everything has to be like paid ads on Facebook. And don't get me wrong, it's a feature that we need to grow on, and it's a feature that does work. But I'm going to do the hard thing first. And I'm going to make sure that we're having success from the hard thing. And then at the end of the day, I want to eventually figure out the easier ways to have
Love it.
success.
Yes, that's the way to approach it, man.
Yeah,
It's especially if you're, I mean, if you're a natural at, if you're personable, you can make a sale. I mean, I enjoy being out in the field talking
agreed.
to homeowners, and I've got 2 wolf dogs. They drive around in my 2025 Dodge Ram. I took them to
That's awesome.
Chicago, Texas, Colorado, and back to Florida last
No way.
visit. Yeah, oh yeah. So
That's awesome.
who knows? The next time I make my Chicago trip, I might have to come through Georgia to see you.
Stop by. Always welcome. Feel free.
Awesome. Hey, Billy, I wanted to mention a couple things. So outside of what I'm doing, public adjusted this hosting this podcast and expanding my network, building my relationships out there with roofing restoration, public adjusting firms. I started an AI business to help roofing and restoration companies streamline operations, increase revenue. For example, I
Yep.
mean, I'm building these growth plans. One roofing operator out of Chicago went through their entire operation, revenue, lead flow, close rate, and
Yeah.
created this customized growth plan so they can achieve their revenue goals. I would love to set up a time with you,
Yep.
sometime next week if possible.
Yep.
We can discuss this in a little bit more detail, man.
For sure. Yeah.
All right, my
Perfect.
friend Billy, I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, of
Thanks
course.
for being on the show. This has been awesome. Great insight, and definitely look forward to our next call, man.
Yeah, sounds great. Looking forward to it, Josh.
Thanks, brother. You have yourself a good weekend.
You as well. I'll see you.
Thank you.